There are places we pass every day without thinking twice. A hallway, a farmhouse, a city apartment. Tonight, we're going to sit quietly inside a few of those places and listen to what happened when nothing seemed wrong at all. The town of Villisca, Iowa, had just over 1,200 residents in 1912. It was a railroad town surrounded by farmland, quiet enough that most people recognized one another on sight. On the night of June 9th, it was especially still. The town had just finished celebrating Children's Day at the local church. That evening, the Moore family returned home around 9 o'clock. Josiah Moore locked the doors as he always did. He had a reputation for being careful. The family house sat on a corner lot, close enough to neighbors that voices carried through open windows in the summer. Nothing about the house suggested danger. It was a standard 2-story frame home. Downstairs, living room, dining room, kitchen. Upstairs, bedrooms. Everything was where it belonged. At some point after midnight, someone entered the house. There was no sign of forced entry. Investigators later believed the intruder may have used a key, or simply walked in through an unlocked door. What mattered most to them was not how quietly the person entered, but how long they stayed. Sometime before dawn, the house went completely silent. At around 5 in the morning, a neighbor noticed something unusual. The Moore family's cow had not been milked. That alone was strange enough to comment on. By 7, another neighbor tried knocking on the door. No answer. The house was still. Curtains were drawn, even though the day had already begun. By mid-morning, concern outweighed politeness. When people finally entered the home, they found that every window was covered. Not just closed, but deliberately blocked. Clothing had been taken from drawers and draped over glass panes. Even the mirrors were covered. Upstairs, the bedrooms showed no signs of struggle. Downstairs, the same. The house looked orderly, almost staged. What investigators found disturbed them not because of chaos, but because of its absence. The weapon used belonged to the house itself. An axe from the Moore's tool shed had been cleaned and placed back where it was found. The blade showed signs of having been wiped carefully. This suggested the person responsible had taken time. They were not rushing. They were not panicking. One detail stood out immediately. Each victim had been struck while they were asleep. There were no defensive wounds, no signs that anyone had woken the others. The attacker moved through the house in sequence, room by room, upstairs, and then downstairs, or possibly the reverse. No one heard anything. No neighbors reported screams. The timeline suggested the person may have remained inside the house for hours. Investigators found food in the kitchen that had been prepared after the murders. A plate with scraps. Water used. A sense that someone had paused, not to hide, but to rest. Outside, the town gathered quietly. No one raised their voice. Parents held their children closer than usual. Doors were locked early that night, even though nothing had changed. The investigation quickly grew chaotic. Suspects came and went. A traveling preacher, a former employee, a man seen leaving town the next morning. Confessions were given and retracted. None held. What bothered investigators most was the behavior, not the mystery. The covering of windows, the covering of mirrors. The fact that the attacker used the blunt side of the axe, suggesting intent beyond efficiency. The calm order of the house afterward. Years later, One of the lead detectives admitted something that stayed with him. He said the house did not feel abandoned when he entered it. It felt occupied, as though someone had only just left. The murders were never solved. The house still stands. People who visit it today often comment on the same thing. Not that it feels frightening, but that it feels wrong, as if the air never quite reset itself after that night. The most unsettling detail, however, comes from the original investigation records. According to multiple reports, when officers first arrived, the house was locked. From the inside,